Hi, today we are in Mountain View with BloomReach. Ashu, who are you and what do you do?
I'm the CTO and co-founder of BloomReach.
When did you start this company and what was the reason for starting it?
So we started BloomReach in late 2008, early 2009. The vision of the company was to actually make the web a lot more relevant and personalized to the people. So like over the last 10-15 years, the amount of content on the web has grown by leaps and bounds. The amount of content that is available is huge. And while Google and Facebooks of the world are trying to make it easy for people to navigate some of that web, what happens is once you leave these portals and land on a destination website, whether it is Walmart.com of the world or eBay or Amazon or even New York Times, finding the content on these websites is still a huge challenge. The amount of content that exists on any of these websites is more than the entire web, what entire web was in 1998. So navigating through that piece of content is really, really hard. And we want to do is to make it very easy for people to find and discover what they are looking for. So we started the company with that vision in mind.
So Google would be the entry point, and then once the people are on the website, it
could be anything. Today, if you look at any typical website, right, a very small portion of the people, like 5-10%, come directly. And the rest of the people will come either through a social network, through an email, through an affiliate campaign, through Google, through paid search campaign, or any other channel. So people are going to land from whatever channel they pick. So it's not as much about like what channel they're picking, right? But they're coming from outside. They may land on any individual page of the website and not necessarily the home page. So what can you do? What can you do? All do you know about that person? From where they're coming, how they're coming, why they're coming, and from their past behavior. And you use all that information to see what on your website is the most relevant piece of content for that user at that time, and enable that whole thing.
Understood. So what enabled yourself to start this company based on your professional background?
So what does it take to make this thing happen? One is, like being at Google, I found out like how people are navigating the web, what are the challenges they are running into, what are the struggles they have, right? So that was one big eye-opening thing for me. The second thing is working at a company like Google, I had access to lots of data and large scale systems, so became an expert in that stuff. And third is my PhD was in machine learning and data mining. So at some level, all these things came together where I could process large amounts of data, apply algorithms over there to make sense out of that data, and then present it to the people.
Okay, great. Let's talk about the business model of BloomReach. As you said, the user comes through different channels to the website, and then what happens next?
So what happens is after that, so if you take any website, right, what you want to do is you want to bring people in, you want to keep the people in over there, and you want them to come again. So bring the people in, that is marketing, right? So one focus is how can you make your marketing a lot more effective than what it is today, bring more people in. The second, so what we have done is we work with the websites to understand how they've organized their content. Is their content getting crawled easily or not? Is this content in the same language as how people are looking for that content? So for example, the way people would describe a product in Europe is different from the way they would describe it in US. But now if you have written the content for the European audience, but launching it in US, that won't work, or vice versa, right? So you need to make sure that language is same as how people are describing it. So we do a number of things to analyze your content to make sure that it's easily accessible by various, like either through social networks or search engines or anyone. So that is one focus on the marketing side. And the second thing is that once you're on the website, the way you navigate the website, you use the navigation structure of the website, you go to category pages, you go to search pages over there. So we provide a SNAP solution, which is search navigation personalization. And actually we have a third product now, which is around analytics. What it does is it helps analyze all the content of the website and the user behavior, and tells you what's working, what's not working, and what all you can do to improve it. So the business model for different products is different. It is a combination of the usage and the performance. like how much our customers are using it and what value they are getting out of it.
Totally. I understood that you have this kind of recommendation engine that you are trying to sell, and then the analytical part.
Yeah.
Regarding the recommendation, is it that you have some kind of a snippet that you just enter, or did you totally rearrange the whole website and categories, etc.?
It can be either.
Okay.
So depending upon the integration and what our customer wants and where they see the maximum value, it could be a small widget on their website, or it could be an entire landing page, or a combination of both.
And how did you find the first customers?
The initial first few customers are always these early adopters, and these are through families and friends. So working with our investors, their relationships, through our own personal relationships, we found some customers. And what it requires is that your value proposition has to be strong enough that even though they understand that it's a startup, it's a risky value proposition, but working with a startup, but their value is going to be so large if it works that I'm willing to give it a try.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit more how the technology behind this works, especially in terms of the recommendation? So what type of data sets are you taking into account?
So what we do, yeah, absolutely. As I said, right, there's a lot about the data and the algorithms that run on top of it, right? So for the data, we look at three key sources of the data. One is any customer that we're working with. We go and crawl and mine all the data that exists on their website. Second big source of the data is the broader web. And just to give you context of why that matters is, if you look at any product as an example, right, you call a product a certain thing because everyone else calls it that. By itself, any name is meaningless. It is in the context of the rest of the web that name becomes meaningful. So by crawling the web, we are able to understand and associate what each word means or each entity means. And then we are able to relate to the content of the website. And the third thing that we look at is the user behavior. That ultimately, if you're trying to satisfy the user, right, you really need to see whether they are liking certain things or they're not liking it, right? And by bringing these three things together, the content of your website, understanding of that, understanding of the user behavior, understanding of the broader web, and then picking the right machine learning algorithms to run on top of it, around collaborative filtering, recommendation, search, and then large-scale distributed processing.
Regarding the analytics product that you are selling, what type of actionable advice can you give your customers based on these insights?
So if you take any website, right, and you guys have one for yourself, right? One is you're deciding what to write. Then second is once you've written it, have you written it correctly or not? Are you missing things or not, right? Once you have done that, then how you're organizing the content on your website. And are you getting the right user behavior from that or not, right? Are there gaps in the content that you have written? So we actually give advice on all these things. What to write, how to write it, who to go after, how to lay out everything. So it is really, what is the purpose of a website or any of these things is connecting the right user to the right piece of content. It's not about should I go with email or should I go with SEO, should I go with SEM, should I do paid search, should I build a website, do I do direct traffic? No. I have a business. In your case, it is a set of articles. For a retailer, it is a set of products. You have an inventory of those things, right? First is you need to source that inventory. So we can tell you what is performing, what is not performing, how you should go about sourcing it. Second is, let's say you're writing an article. First I tell you should write on security. Then within security, what people are concerned about, how you should be describing that. Then how you should be laying it out, to what audience you should be reaching out to. Should you be reaching out to the people in a certain age group, certain demographics, or certain psychographics? What will work? And once you've done all that, what worked, what didn't do, and help you to predict what's going to happen tomorrow. So we do all aspects of it.
Can you tell us how the revenue model works?
For this product?
For analytics and for the recommendation.
On analytics, it is a function of the amount of content that we're processing and amount of the user that we are processing. So if a website has large amounts of content and large amount of user base, we charge a lot more than because the amount of processing that we have to do and analyze and storage and everything is a function of that stuff. Around the product on recommendation and personalization, and on that it's a function of the usage, like how much usage they're getting, like are they putting it on every page or are they putting it on a few pages. Based on that, it costs us and to work there, and there's an element of how much value they are getting out of it as well.
Let's talk about corporate strategy. So what competitive advantage do you perceive of BloomReach over other companies?
So I think I would expand that one slightly more and say that, like, as a startup, right, what is your competitive advantage and how do you build that over time, right? And there are a number of things that you can do. One is, like, when you're starting on day one, it is typically a data and technology and product. You have a product that no one else has. So that is your competitive advantage. Or you have a piece of technology that no one else has, right? So BloomReach, what we have done is the kind of tools that we have built, the algorithms, are very, very unique. There are very, very few companies or handful of people in the world who can do these kind of things. So that is one big advantage that we have, that no one else. The second thing is that over time, the amount of data that we have collected is unique to us. So the customers that we are working with, we have collected over their data for last 1 year or last 2 years, right? So we know a lot about what's going on. So our starting point is much better than what anyone else would. There's a network effect that now that we are working with so many retailers, as an example, our performance on the next retailer is so much better than it was on the first retailer at the first time. So there's a big data advantage, network effect advantage. And third is, we have a large customer base, and that gives us the referenceability, and so that becomes a huge customer advantage. So you just have a huge footprint, and now you can upsell more products to the same customer base.
In terms of market development, one part of your business is related to SEO and SEM. Can you tell us a bit more, what implication does your business model have on the total market of SEO and SEM? Because there are so many SEO agencies out there consulting websites, how they should optimize the website, and you are doing this somehow automated.
So what people are doing is manually looking at small pieces of content and seeing what can be done over there. Now, in that case, most of the time it is around like how we can get around and get more traffic, right? As against looking at like why something needs to be done for SEO, as an example, right? So if you have a website, but if you build a website in a way that it cannot be crawled, I mean, there is a fundamental limitation of the way the content gets consumed by different websites, right? So it is not really about SEO. It's more around like the basic structure of the website. So in a simple way, right? You have 5 pages, or suppose you have 10 pages on your website. I can come up with a link structure where it will take 9 hops to get to the last page, right? Or if you have a website of 1 million pages, I can build a link structure with just 10 links on a page, so that you can get from any page to any page within like 5 hops. Now, if it's in a crawl-based world, you need to make sure that the content is organized properly, right? But the actually fundamental thing that has happened over the last 15 years is, if you go with any standard textbook on marketing, it will be about like, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you stand out in the crowd, right? Makes sense. But in a search-based world, you need to be more part of the crowd than stand out of the crowd. You can define everything that you are doing in a way which is different from how everyone else is calling. But guess what? People are searching based on how everyone else is calling and not how you are calling. So you won't show up over there, right? So you need to be as similar to the crowd as possible, as different from the crowd. So it's the exact opposite of how marketing was in the past. So we are trying to solve those basic problems, which requires a lot more data analysis and everything. And so it's neither competing with the agencies. So, I mean, they have their place and they are doing a lot and they are helping. So if you are like, okay, these are the 5 categories that I'm worried about, sure, you work with agencies. But if it is more around like, I want to look at the general structure of my website and make sure that that is working well, right? Over 1 million pages. No one can do it manually. That is where you need tools. And that is where BloomReach comes into play.
Understood. So in terms of market development, you worked at Google. What happens if Google enters a similar market like you do? Because in addition to your data set, they have also all the SEO or search engine data. Is this some kind of a viable threat that you are feeling or not?
I mean, Google has like 20,000 engineers. Sure, they can do everything. And so It's the case with any other company. But the customers, when we work with them, one is we know a lot more about them than anyone else would ever.
Okay.
So there's a simple thing about you don't know what you don't know. If there's a page that is not getting crawled, you just don't know that stuff. There's nothing you can do about it, right? I mean, in our case, because we work very closely with these enterprises, we know about that stuff and we can work towards surfacing it. So the amount of data and understanding that we have is so much more than anyone else. But on the other hand, like if someone wants to get into this space, sure they can, and then, but I think because of the competitive advantage that we have built over time, right? Now we know, like, for example, Neiman Marcus is our customer. We know what has been going on that website for the last 1.5 years. No one else does. So we will have that big advantage, right? So the starting point for anyone else would be much lower than ours.
Imagine your little brother comes to you and says, Ashu, I want to start a company. Maybe he's living in India. What you recommend to him? What should he do and what shouldn't he do?
Do it because you're passionate about something. Don't do it for money or don't do it for a quick outcome.
Yeah.
I mean, you as an entrepreneur yourself, right? And I'm sure you guys have heard of a startup is a roller coaster ride.
Right. We also have written a post about that.
A startup being a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
And actually, a startup is anything but a roller coaster ride. A startup is not a roller coaster ride. Working in a big company is a roller coaster ride. And let me explain what I mean by that. And when you are in a roller coaster, you might be going at 50 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour in that roller coaster for 5 minutes. You know that at the end of 5 minutes, the roller coaster will stop. You will be exactly where you said. You have a harness around you. Nothing is going to happen to you. You will get all the jerks, but you will be where you are.
Yeah.
Nothing will change. The world will still be the same for you, right? Big company, you will be thrown around from one project to another, but at the end of the month, you will get a fat paycheck. That's it. Your check won't go by more than 10-20% next year.
Yeah, sure.
That's it. Right? A startup is like driving here in Bay Area, right? Driving on 101 at 150 miles an hour. Either you will be the first one to reach your destination or you will die.
Yeah.
Nothing in between. There's no harness. You don't control everyone else on the road. If you succeed, you're the fastest one. Otherwise, you're just not there, right? I mean, that is what a startup is. So if you're ready for it, the other thing is that most people, I mean, like I meet so many entrepreneurs, they're like, so what are you trying to do? Yeah, it's a good idea, so I'm working on it. Why? Because I want to build WhatsApp for this thing. I want to build Uber for this thing. What are you passionate about? No, but this will have a huge market. And customers want this. I understand all that, but what are you passionate about?
Yeah.
No, but I can make money through this thing, and the VCs are saying this is a good idea. But have you given a thought to what you want to do in life? And I think people miss out on that aspect. So you should have a reason why you want to do it. You should have a passion behind it, right? I think that's the key thing.
When did you know that your passion is big data, machine learning, and maybe search?
I mean, I've been now doing this for the last 15, 18 years. Like my PhD was in that, my undergrad thesis was in that, my master's was in that. So it has been just over time. But the key passion is how do you make life easier for people? I mean, that's the ultimate goal. And all these are different ways and baby steps to get there.
What other advice would you give your little brother?
I mean, it is tough work. You have to be ready to do everything. I mean, like as we were discussing earlier, right? It's not only about like, I like this piece of work or I don't like this piece of work, right? You will have to do whatever is needed, right? You're the master in the office, but you're also the janitor of the office, right? You just do everything.
Right.
So that's one thing. It's a long journey. I mean, you may have an exit in a year. You may be at, I mean, you're successful, right?
Yeah.
You retire with that. You're in it for the next 25 years, right? So make sure that you're ready to make that commitment. Other thing is you need to make sure that you have enough support structure from your family. Because in this race for doing things and achieving our vision, sometimes our family has to pay the price.
Right.
And are they ready for it or not?
Mm-hmm.
Because once you are in, there's no looking back. You will have good days, you will have bad days.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready for that?
How did your family support you?
Like, I was on vacation actually last week, and that was probably the first vacation I took in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one part of how they have to suffer from this, right?
Not seeing you.
Not seeing you, or you're not being there. But more importantly, even when you are there, like, half the time my wife kept asking me, so what are you thinking right now? You're on the beach and you're not enjoying it any other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Do you mind if I quickly go and respond to that email or answer this thing? Right? So, I mean, it's a huge sacrifice. You're just not there for them.
Yeah. Ashu, thank you very much for your time. And next time you are thinking about starting a company, pick some idea that you're very passionate about. Thank you very much. Great. Thank you very much, Ashu.